Tonight, mandating vaccines.
They love their job, but they didn't want to get the shots.
The challenge of separating mask mandates and vaccine requirements from politics.
We don't really need to be polarized about a virus that's killing people.
This is the COVID-19 Delta variant surges across the country. Plus,
the administration's decision appears to have rested on wishful thinking.
Taliban fighters overrun key cities in Afghanistan amid the final phase of the U.S. troop withdrawal. And the deep and abiding faith of this summer's Olympians in Tokyo. All this and more on Faith Nation. Vaccine mandates on the way. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Tara Mergener. As the highly contagious Delta variant continues to surge, the Pentagon today taking steps towards a mandatory vaccination order for all troops. This as a large number of Americans remain leery of taking the vaccine. Jennifer Wishon reports.
The latest statistics show just half of the country is fully vaccinated, and those who haven't taken the shot are facing more repercussions. In a memo to U.S. service members, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin today announcing all troops will be required to get the COVID vaccine, a move supported by President Joe Biden. Being vaccinated will enable our service members to stay healthy, to better protect their families, and to ensure that our force is ready to operate anywhere in the world, he said in a statement.
CNN has fired 3 employees who came to work without getting a COVID vaccine.
CNN joins some of the nation's largest employers like Walmart, Google, and Facebook, all requiring workers to get vaccinated. Both the Justice Department and Equal Employment Opportunity Commission have decided the mandates are acceptable.
Certainly, I celebrate when I see businesses deciding that they're going to mandate that for their employees.
But when Veterans Affairs mandated healthcare workers get vaccinated or face possible termination, doctors, nurses, and other professionals lit up the phones at Liberty Counsel.
Many of them have been distraught, frantic. Some have called us in tears to find out how they could ultimately respond. They love their job, but they didn't want to get the shots.
Liberty Counsel pressured the government to reveal employees can legally opt out for religious reasons, a fact that wasn't publicized. Many Americans simply aren't comfortable getting a COVID vaccine. That's because of questions regarding both long-term effects and the reporting of injuries from vaccines. Add that to confusion from the CDC about breakthrough infections and masks that's led to mistrust, and the fact that the shots are still not fully authorized by the FDA. Like it or not, getting a vaccine has also become politicized, which is something the Biden administration has worked to tamp down.
Why is it that a mandate about vaccine or about wearing a mask suddenly becomes a statement of your political party? We never should have let that happen. And come on, America, we can separate these, can't we? We're incredibly polarized about politics. We don't really need to be polarized about a virus that's killing people.
Staver argues it comes down to one thing: freedom.
It is reprehensible, it's un-American, it's unconstitutional, it's illegal to force individuals, particularly our healthcare working heroes, against their will. And that is just despicable.
This week, Liberty Counsel is organizing Walkout Wednesday, encouraging all Americans, vaccinated or not, to walk out of their workplaces or schools at noon to stand for freedom. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News.
Well, joining us now is John Quelch, Dean of the Miami Herbert Business School at the University of Miami. John, thanks so much for coming on the show today. As we heard the NIH director say in Jennifer's piece, wearing a mask or getting a vaccine has become almost a political statement now. Is there any way at this point to separate health decisions from all the politics?
I hope so. It's very unfortunate that this has occurred. And the reason is in part because the messaging and communication from the CDC and government officials has been, to some extent, inconsistent and unclear. It's very important in a crisis situation to have clear and consistent communications. And we have had mixed messaging from the CDC. Sometimes Dr. Walensky and Dr. Fauci are not quite on the same page. And that gives a chance for people who are skeptical about the vaccine to provide them with further opportunities to say, I'm going to put it off.
Yeah, certainly it's been very confusing. Well, do you think full FDA approval of the vaccine help people's fears over getting the shot? Do you think it will alleviate any of these fears?
I think it will alleviate some, but to be frank, I believe a number of the people who have been using that as a justification for not getting vaccinated have been using it as an excuse, and that there may be other reasons why they have not been taking the vaccine. Accordingly, if that full authorization is provided, maybe it won't have as much effect on people's opinion as we might think. However, I do think it will give a lot more cover to public authorities and to corporations to require vaccines of workers if they show up for work.
You know, people point to breakthrough infections as one reason not to get the vaccine, and that they'll get their COVID, or they'll get it whether they received a shot or not. What is your response to that idea about the breakthrough part of this?
Well, I think that's very unfortunate, because it's clear that the breakthrough infections that do occur are largely mild and do not typically, in fact, very rarely result in hospitalization. And so to say that you're going to get COVID whether or not you have the vaccine or not is really to be very dismissive about the extraordinary efficacy of the vaccines that we are, frankly, in this country, privileged to have been the first to have the opportunity to access.
All right, John, real quickly, changing gears just a bit. Democrats have decided to leave a debt ceiling increase out of the budget plan, putting the U.S. on a path to default and setting up a government shutdown and showdown possibly over this fall on top of the COVID stimulus payments already in place. How long can the U.S. Treasury sustain itself at this rate?
Well, I'm not sure that I can put a time limit on that, but certainly the U.S. Treasury and Secretary Yellen have implemented the extraordinary measures, as they're known. These are asset sale measures that enable the government to ensure that it can meet its interest obligations on the debt. Typically, the timeline for that is 2 to 3 months, a grace period of 2 to 3 months before Congress has to either decide to further suspend the debt ceiling, which was done for 2 years under President Trump, initiated under President Trump. Either they suspend the debt ceiling or alternatively vote for a new limit on the debt ceiling, which is currently running at around about $28.5 trillion.
All right, John, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your thoughts.
Thank you.
All right, well, as crews fight to contain almost 20 wildfires now in California, the largest by far is the Dixie Fire, which has burned through almost 500,000 acres at this point. And now that it's become one of the state's largest ever, scientists are also warning how the public may have responsibility in all of this. CBN News correspondent Brody Carter has the latest on the Dixie Fire. Brody.
Well, Tara, dry conditions, high winds, they've only fed those flames across the western U.S. And now a new United Nations report claims the Earth is warming faster than first reported, blaming populations for an increase in natural disasters. Almost 30 days ablaze, and the Dixie Fire shows no sign of slowing its rampage through Northern California. More than 600 structures destroyed, and another 1,400 buildings likely in the fire's path, which we're told has already burned through almost 500,000 acres.
It's obvious that fires can break out anywhere and can destroy structures anywhere within the state of California.
Officials are now warning thousands of residents to get out. But with nowhere to go, people are setting up camps like this one in Susanville.
Where would I go? I couldn't go back that way.
Dixie Fire now burning about 90 miles northeast of Sacramento. Satellite images showing a blanket of smoke drifting across the western U.S. with only 21% of the blaze contained.
It's scary when you sit there and see all the smoke coming over the mountain and wonder, where's it at? Because you can't see it.
And while fires rage, scientists sounding the alarm in a newly released climate report from the United Nations. One conclusion, the consequences, like we're seeing in California, are just one extreme example traced to human action.
Human influence is making extreme climate events, including heat waves, heavy rainfall, and droughts, more frequent and severe.
The report dubbed a code red for humanity.
We are facing a combination of worsening impacts on land and in the ocean and along our coasts, including a significant increase in the frequency and intensity of weather and climate extremes.
As for the Dixie Fire, it is still under investigation. Initial belief from Pacific Gas and Electric is the fire may have ignited when a tree fell on one of its power lines. The company has until August 16th to submit a final report on a suspected cause. Tara, back to you.
All right, Brody Carter, thank you so much. Well, tonight, the accuser known as Executive Assistant Number 1 in the bombshell report detailing allegations of sexual harassment by Governor Andrew Cuomo is coming forward. Speaking to CBS News after filing a criminal complaint against Cuomo, Brittany Camiso said, quote, he broke the law.
These were hugs with the intention of getting some personal sexual satisfaction out of. Then they started to be hugs with kisses on the cheek. And then there was at one point a hug. And then when he went to go kiss me on the cheek, he quickly turned his head and he kissed me on the lips.
What did you say?
I didn't say anything.
Camiso is one of 11 women the governor of New York is accused of harassing in the New York State Attorney General report. Well, coming up, the U.S. withdrawal in Afghanistan is moving ahead. Why some lawmakers are speaking out as the Taliban takes advantage of a power vacuum.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Tonight, the Taliban are in control of a 6th provincial capital in the war-torn country. The new gains come as the U.S. continues its withdrawal after decades of fighting. Today on the Senate floor, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell spoke out against the Biden administration's planned end to U.S. involvement in the war.
From their bizarre choice of a symbolic September the 11th deadline to the absence of any concrete plan, the administration's decision appears to have rested on wishful thinking and not much else.
Here with us now is Michael O'Hanlon, Senior Fellow and Director of Research and Foreign Policy at the Brookings Institution. Michael, thanks for coming on the show. First, is Mitch McConnell's assessment correct? Is the administration's decision to pull out of America's longest war based on wishful thinking?
Greetings, Tara, and I'm afraid I have to agree with Senator McConnell here. I don't usually agree with him, but I think the analysis really cuts to the essence of the decision. Clearly, President Biden voiced the frustration of a lot of Americans, and it wasn't unlike President Trump's, but it was still, I think, a frustration that could lead to worse policy if we simply pulled out fast, which is, of course, what's happened. And so, for example, as further proof that there wasn't much of a plan, it's taken all summer to figure out how to get visas for Afghan interpreters, and it's also taken all summer to figure out where to repair the Afghan Air Force, which has depended on Western contractor support, not for all tasks, but for some of them. And if the country is becoming insecure, it's not obvious where you keep that Air Force operational, which the Afghans really need if they're going to have a chance to fend off Taliban attacks in a number of parts of the country. So I'm afraid that does reinforce Senator McConnell's contention that there really wasn't a great plan here. And ultimately, and sadly, I have to agree with him.
How significant do you think the gains that were made over the weekend by the Taliban?
Well, they're quite significant. They're not in the largest cities in Afghanistan. And most people probably don't really have a super clear feel for the country. But of course, people have heard of Kabul. That's the biggest city. That's still mostly in government hands. Kandahar is the former home of the Taliban and where bin Laden had his camp in the late 1990s into the 2001 period. And that's still in government hands, but contested. Then there is the city of Mazar-e-Sharif up north. I think that's generally safe, but we'll see. And then Herat in the west, which I think is also looking okay for the moment. Then there are a number of smaller cities near the border with Pakistan. Those have not yet fallen. And I don't know if and when any of them will. So the point is that this is a fight. This is not the beginning of a complete collapse necessarily. And in fact, I don't predict that it will become that. But unfortunately, it is going to be an increasingly intense civil war, and the Taliban will take more territory.
You know, the Times of London reporting that the U.S. is committing bombers and gunships back into Afghanistan to slow the collapse. Quickly, is this too little too late?
It might be, but it's also the right decision. So I will give President Biden credit. Sometimes, you know, to put it bluntly, when you make a mistake, it's hard to even admit it to yourself. And I think they had hoped to wash their hands militarily of the whole thing, and many Americans would have liked that too. I would have liked that too. I just don't think it was realistic or possible. And there is a chance that if we can get the Afghan Air Force flying with the right kind of Western contractor support, if we can get our own airplanes to contribute in certain key moments, we may be able to help the government hold on to much of the country, but certainly not all of it.
Yes or no, is it possible to reverse this withdrawal, do you think?
No, I mean, politically, no. You know, militarily, yes, we could fight our way back in, but President Biden is not going to do that. So I just don't even begin to see that as a viable, plausible option. Now, there is the possibility of keeping some modest numbers of American special forces in various kinds of covert or support roles. And of course, we do have several hundred U.S. troops still helping guard the airport and the embassy. So in that sense, you could expand those, but I don't see the recreation of a major operational base like Bagram, for example. I would support that. I just don't think it's politically realistic, given what we've seen of President Biden's thinking on this subject.
All right, Michael O'Hanlon, thank you so much for joining us. All your thoughts.
Thank you.
All right. What is driving the super athletes at the Olympics? For many, a deep and abiding faith in God, the faith of Olympians, when we come back.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to cbnnewschannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
All right, well, in case you missed it, USA is on top of the world tonight, coming home with more gold, silver, and bronze than any country this year in the world at the Summer Olympics in Tokyo, of course. The U.S. even besting China, winning 39 gold medals, one more than China's 38. And now the athletic glory is putting a spotlight on the deep Christian faith of so many Olympians. Allison Felix, the most decorated American Olympian for track and field with a record-breaking 11 medals, says running is a gift from God. And fellow track superstar Sydney McLaughlin, an Olympic gold medalist, after breaking the world record in the women's 400-meter hurdles, is an outspoken Christian who gives all the glory to God. All right, joining us now is our very own CBN News sports director, Sean Brown. Sean, thanks for coming on Faith Nation. First off, were you surprised by the final medal count?
Hi, Tara. Honestly, no, because in 2016 we had 121 medals. What I was surprised by was the way that the U.S. Team was able to rally together with all the restrictions and so forth going around surrounding COVID. And they didn't start out quickly. I mean, they didn't start out strong, but we were able to capitalize and rally together towards the end there.
It's so great to see. Well, tell us about Allison Felix. The 35-year-old mom says this is her 5th and final Olympics. What drives her?
I'll tell you, you know what? She answers that question with a quote. And the quote goes like this. She said, "When you see me on the track, I hope you understand my fight. As an athlete, I was told I was too old. As a woman, I was told to know my place. As a mother who wasn't sure I would live to raise my daughter, I hope you see that for me, it's much more about than what that clock says." And that encompasses who she is. She's fighting for so much more. And we see the athletes when they cross the finish line, but there was a journey before that. And we don't often get a chance to see that. And she says, when you see me on the track, know that there was a struggle involved. I arise victorious, and the center of all of that is my faith in Jesus Christ. She refers to the challenging birth of her daughter, Cameron, in 2018, and it was hard. And she was able to battle back from that to her 5th Olympics, and to accomplish what she has as the most decorated track and field athlete is just phenomenal. And at the center of all of that is her relationship in Jesus Christ.
Well, she certainly is amazing. Now, Sydney McLaughlin, also an outspoken Christian, how much of an inspiration is she to fellow Christians?
You know what? The Bible talks about in 2 Corinthians 5:20, it says that we are ambassadors for Christ. You know, as though God were pleading his case through us, right? She understands that. I mean, she goes in and she says, when she won the race, she says, it's not about what's happening on the clock. It's not about medals and all of that. It's about what God has done through me. That's what she understands. There's so many quotes that she said throughout this tournament when she was running with Delilah Muhammad. She said it was ironing, sharpening iron. She understood what this process is about. And so when you see her, she said, look, even like Allison Felix, who is now passing the torch, passing the baton, pun intended, to this young woman who knows, look, it's not about what you see me doing. It's about me giving it up to the Lord who has blessed me with this gift. And such an inspiration to see these young athletes put their priorities in order and know that it's so much bigger than them.
All right, we're running out of time, but quickly, sportsmanship at the Olympics, the tie in the men's high jump, that moment when USA's Isaiah Jewett was closing in on second place and then stopped to help up Botswana's Nigel Amos. Have you ever seen anything like that?
You know, no, but when you look at those 5 rings, those 5 Olympic rings, that's what it's about. It's about the world coming together in unity in the spirit of friendly competition. And there you see it, both of them helping each other up, saying, hey, we're going to finish this thing together. It's bigger than us, and let's just do this thing together. And it's just it's a beautiful thing to see. That's why you see so many hugs after races and after competitions, because the Olympians, they understand that. And it's a beautiful thing to see.
It is indeed. All right, thanks for joining us, Sean. And coming up, an emotional victory. This Olympic team celebrating with a song of tribute to their country and glory to God. That's next.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
And finally tonight, a hard-fought battle for the Fiji men's rugby team ended in a win at the Tokyo Olympics. For the players took home the gold after defeating New Zealand 27-12. The men circled up to pay homage to family and friends with a song called "We Are Winners Because of This World." The lyrics included a gospel hymn by the blood of the Lamb and the word of the Lord. We have overcome the pandemic, prevented the team from visiting their families for 6 months while they were in training. The song was an emotional display of perseverance and incredible vocal talent. Congratulations to everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for today's Faith Nation. We will see you back here tomorrow. Have a great day.